Alright, you guys, here it is, the grand tour of the National Science Foundation's Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. I thought the natural place to start was here on the observation deck, so let's get started.
So before I show you the inside, let me just do a quick overview of the elevated station. It's made up of two main pods, A and B, and each of these are separated into 4 sections each. I'm starting the tour over here on the left at the observation deck, and in this first part I will be moving along the entire length of the station on the second floor. In part 2, I'll be moving back in the opposite direction on the first floor. Along the way, I'll be showing all these rooms and points of interest. Check out the video description below for a link to this map if you want to use it to follow along.
So most of the exits and entrances to the station have a vestibule-like area. It's kind of like our airlock, although it's not for air, it's for the heat. So when you open a door directly to the outside, you don't let all the heat out. So kind of this double door system to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, and just inside the observation deck, right here is the large conference room, which is used for any kind of large gatherings, sometimes all hands meetings. Actually, just the other day, a few weeks ago actually, we had one of our staff members here who is a PhD candidate defend his doctoral thesis here in this room via teleconference to his university back in Maryland. And he became officially the first person to become a doctor at the South Pole. So that was pretty cool. Along this side, we have a bunch of relics. This is a rock from Mount Howe, which is the southernmost exposed rock in the world. Somebody chipped it off and brought it here. A bunch of relics from the early explorers, like first edition of Roald Amundsen's book about his trip here to the South Pole that he signed. The Navy Seabees. We've got a little American flag that was taken aboard the International Space Station and then given to us. So a bunch of cool stuff in here. This whole place is like a museum. I'll show you more stuff as we go along. Instead of going left when we came in those doors, we went to the right. We'd be coming over to the weight room, which is above the gym. Anybody in here? No? Okay. So this is our weight room, exercise room. Some people call it the gerbil gym because we have all the treadmills and ellipticals and bikes in here as well. But you got your rowing machine, bike machine, some Smith machine, some other exercise machines, squat rack, barbells, standard gym fare. Basically everything I needed was in here. We've got a screen in here and some good speakers in case you want to play music or watch something. We've got some people who did the Walk to Mordor, where you watch all 3 of the Lord of the Rings trilogy as you walk on the treadmill. I think they did it a few weeks ago, which is like 14 hours or something crazy like that. Anyways, walking out of the weight room. And now, head down this way. Now, back here is where the offices of administration are, HR, the station manager, the area manager. Most of these offices are dormant in the winter because there's not that many staff here. We don't have HR over the winter. We don't have the area manager here over the winter. But what I wanted to show you back here is the communication center. So the communication center is the main hub of communication that's not data-based. Of course, we have satellite internet and voice over IP that we can use. That's held somewhere else, but this is all radio frequency communication, which is important for flights that land here. So anytime there's a flight taking off or landing here, this is the flight control center. We also have the satellite Iridium phones in here that we can call anywhere in the world via satellite. That's separate from our internet satellite. So yeah, this is the hub right here. Not as active during the winter because we don't have any flights during the winter, but during summer, it is very active. All right, like I said, down this hallway is all the offices, boring, but there's more relics in this glass case here. Most of it's not that notable. However, I think this is pretty cool. If you've ever heard of Admiral Byrd, and he was the first person to fly over the South Pole in 1929, I believe. This is the sweater that he wore as he flew over the South Pole in his plane. Pretty cool. So if we go back out into the main hallway, we have, of course, since I said we have the large conference room, we've got to have the small conference room. Same thing as the large conference room, just smaller. All right, now, as you can see, as we go down the hallway, there's all these murals of this history of the station, a lot of things about the Antarctic Treaty, what we stand for, why we're here. Just a little bit down from the small conference room is this little hallway here. which leads to what we call Kinko's, which is basically copy and print office of the whole place. Somebody left the light on in here. Okay. So, over here we have laminators, copiers, a microwave for some reason. Anyway, anything you could need for office supplies is in here. If you want paper clips, you want push pins, you want anything like that. Over here is more the drafting station, architectural, utilities, management place. Not very much interest to me, however, in here is our large format printer, which we've been able to print out some massive posters with, and is super useful for events and printing out banners and things like that. Otherwise, this place is pretty boring. To me, at least. All right, and then come out of Kinko's and then back to the main hallway. We are exiting B3 second level and going into B2 second level. And just to my right is the cargo deck, although during the winter, we're not actually lifting much cargo from the outside up to this deck, and it's usually known as the smoking deck because it's one of the few places on station where you can actually smoke if you're a smoker. Let's see if this will actually open for me. Here we go. So yeah, we have a crane lift here that we can bring up cargo that's just brought in from the plane right here. If you want to smoke, you can see those red signs over there. It says smoking area behind these signs. If you want to be a smoker down here, you got to be pretty dedicated. That's all I got to say about that. All right, and if we go right across from the cargo deck, this is the entrance to B2. B2 second level is all science. This is where all the science offices are, all the scientists hang out in here. Right now it's about 3 in the morning, so I don't think there's going to be any scientists in here. So as you can see, we have the meteorology corner back that way. You might see a little sign that says MET. All the meteorologists hang out back there. And the whole B2 pod is very open, very spacious. The roof's very high. Up there is where we have long-term science storage, which is called the mezzanine, that second floor up there, second kind of half floor. But everything's very open and spacious in here. It's really nice. But we come through here, and this little hutch area is where the scientists for the IceCube laboratory, the IceCube neutrino detector, they hang out here. We have right now Dr. Martin Wolf and Dr. Josh Veach-Michaelis, who run that experiment right now over the winter. This little section here is for the South Pole Telescope scientists. We have Dr. Sasha Rollin and Dr. Matt Young over here. And then we have various other hutches where other scientists run other experiments like BICEP, MAPO, the Super Darn Array, the Aurora cameras. Back there we have a workbench if anybody needs to do any soldering or welding. And that's pretty much the B2 pod or B2 science. We go out these other double doors that connect B2 to the main hallway. And I do want to point out one thing. To those of you who might be paying close attention, is that you might have seen a stairway way down the hallway by the weight room before I went in. That's one stairway. We have another stairway here, kind of in the middle of the station, and then we have one more way down at the other end. There are only 3 stairways inside the station that connect the 2 levels. So there's a lot of times where you have to kind of walk out of your way to get to a stairway, to go down, to walk back under exactly where you just were. So it's a little bit tedious to get around sometimes, but honestly the station's not that big, so you shouldn't be complaining. But the stairways are important for another reason, and that is because they're kind of the community bulletin board. So there's columns for each day of the week, and you have different events that happen each day of the week. It could be a TV show, could be board game night, and then special events are here on the end. So anytime you want to put on an event, you've got to make a poster, you've got to put it up in the stairways, and that's basically how everybody gets to know that you're doing something. Okay, so here's the doors I just came out of from B2. Directly across is the entrance to B1. Now B1 is mainly a birthing pod, which is another way to say that's where we sleep. It's just an old Navy term. By the way, there are a lot of Navy terms around here like berthing, galley, and that's because the very first South Pole station was a Navy base. And so a lot of those terms kind of stuck around. But besides the berthing, the first half of this pod, B1, is a lounge where we have a billiards table, we have a little coffee table socializing area over there. Over here in the corner of the B1 lounge, we have chess, a bunch of magazines, a little sound system, play music if we want to, and also a community fridge where it's kind of like take a beer, leave a beer, that sort of thing. And then all our board games and card games are over in these big old closets over here. We have tons of everything. We have tons of games I've never even heard of. Of course, we got Rock'em Sock'ems, a bunch of cribbage. Cribbage has gotten super popular on station this winter. We play it just about every day, sometimes twice a day. But yeah, puzzles, got lots of activities stuffed in these closets. Catan, obviously, Ticket to Ride, all the classics, some stuff I've never even heard of in here. So lots of stuff to do. Lots of people down for board games here too, because everybody here is usually a little bit nerdy. So, and then we have the movie lounge, or one of our movie lounges on station. And as you can see, we have a pretty good selection of DVDs and Blu-rays, and then pretty comfortable seating for watching movies, TV shows together. A lot of times people will just organize a movie night for a particular movie, whether it's ladies' night and they're watching Magic Mike, or somebody new came on station and brought a new TV show with them. Sometimes they'll just organize that, and it's a really good time, good bonding. Bring your popcorn in here, and yeah. Another thing to note is that, like I said, back through that door is the B1 berthing. I'm not going to show it to you because all the berthing kind of looks the same, and I'm going to show you where I am berthed over in A1, so I'm just going to leave that for now. But just underneath us, underneath this floor, on the first level of B1 is the emergency power plant. Now that's pretty important because we do have a main power plant, and we have 3 generators there, and we only need one of them to run the whole station. But in the event that all 3 of them somehow failed, we have the emergency power plant in the first floor of B1 that would take over and run essential functions while we are working on getting out of here. Because if all 3 of our power plant generators failed, that's bad news. All right, as we come out of the B1 lounge and head further down this hallway, we are now in the connector between the A pod and B pod. If you look out this window, you might be able to see, if my camera adjusts, the big white banner that faces towards the, I guess you could call it the front yard of the station, and that's towards the ceremonial pole with all the flags and the mirror ball. And then if you look out this side, you can see the backyard. Way off in the distance, you can see the RF domes, the satellite ray domes that we'd use to get our internet access, and all the berms that have our long-term storage out there, various other buildings. But yeah, this is the connector between the 2 pods, between A pod and B pod. So I'm now leaving B pod, now going to A pod. And we have lots of memorabilia on the walls. We have big blow-up prints of the original New York Times articles when Amundsen reached the South Pole on foot, when Scott's party was discovered dead in Antarctica, and then when Admiral Byrd flew the first flight over the South Pole in 1929. And now, since we're solidly in A pod, here is the computer lab. Also, a lot of our offices and cubicles are in here for facilities and maintenance personnel, for IT personnel. I think some of them are in here working right now, so I'm not going to bother them. But basically behind me is where you can find the computer lab. These computers are available 24/7 to use. We don't have internet 24/7, but you can always use them. This is the IT office right here. And then various cubicles and offices back in there. Boring, I'm not going to take you back there. And then coming back out of there, you might notice along the walls we have these lockers. Some of them are red, some of them are green. These are basically for the firefighter team. They store a lot of their tanks, their tools, their fire gear in these lockers for quick access in case there's a fire, which was one of our main emergency concerns on station, is fire. You might think that's weird since it's so cold outside, but inside it's a nice warm temperature. Definitely fire could take hold here. On this wall, and you might be noticing I've passed a lot of these pictures and frames already, these are group photos of every single winter over crew that stayed at the South Pole since the base was first established in 1957. And so you can come along this, it's kind of like a memory lane, you can kind of come along this wall and also this wall and see, you know, all the prior crews that were here. Our station photo was just taken not too long ago, and we are going to go right here. So, of course, I'm the physician assistant on station. I work with the station doc, and the 2 of us are the sole medical support for all the staff and scientists on station. And our clinic is right here in A pod. Let me take you in. So, if you come in here through the vestibule, and here is the lab with another door into the pharmacy. And this is actually my office. This is the computer I sit at basically most days, waiting for a patient to come in. Sometimes I'm managing inventory. Sometimes I am taking stock of all the pills we have in the pharmacy, which is right through this door, locked, of course. And this is all the over-the-counter pills we have that we can just give out to people when they need it, whether it's Tums or maybe some lip balm or sunscreen, something like that. And this is all, it's a little bit of a mess right now, try to ignore it. We're in the middle of trying to transition and clean things up for the next crew that's coming in here. But we have a lot of the standard medical equipment. I'll probably make a separate video on all the different labs and all the different capabilities we have here in the medical clinic, but actually it's pretty comprehensive for how isolated we are. I was actually impressed when I got here. So coming further into the clinic, we have our main patient treatment area through here. And there's our bed, our crash cart over here, our defibrillator, ventilator, our main ventilator. We have several backup ventilators as well. Ultrasound, all our equipment, drawers here, IV pumps, etc. And then we have our telemedicine station, where often we'll call over to McMurdo Station, where they might have a physical therapist, which we don't have here, and they can help us with a patient who might be having back pain or shoulder pain and help us do some rehab for them via telemedicine. Over here we have the dentist's area. We rarely use this, but we are trained in some very basic dental procedures and all our dental equipment over here. We also have our portable x-ray machine right down here, and our x-ray cartridges and readers over here, our 24/7 Iridium phone line over here in case we need to call back to our medical support at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. They are there for us 24/7 if we ever have a question or we need to consult anybody. They are awesome. And so that is the patient treatment area. Come through here. If you're wondering, we had the plastic up because of COVID. We have not had a COVID patient here at the South Pole yet. We're hoping to keep it that way, but if we needed to take any isolation precautions because we have a COVID patient there, we could shut this and basically kind of seal off the airspace from outside here. We have not had to do that yet, but again, we can go through some more plastic over here to the inpatient area. And here we have the inpatient bed, Manny the mannequin sitting over there right now. I think this is probably the best view out a window at the station is from this room, and that's because we get to look straight out at the ceremonial South Pole, basically right in line with it. Makes for great pictures, great time lapses. You can see all the way over to the Atmospheric Research Observatory way out there, and then the dark sector buildings way out there, which are kind of just silhouettes right now. But I love this room. It's cozy, it's comfortable. If we have not had to have an inpatient this year, I hope that continues. We've had a very healthy year so far, and you get a TV too if you have to sit here. We've got our Stryker stretcher right here, of course, with our go bag, and our ACLS medications, and then through here is the station doctor's office. Dr. Lee, who's not in here right now because it's 3 in the morning. Another exam table here, and that's basically the entire clinic. Yeah. All right, so coming out of the clinic and heading further down a pod, first we have the community whiteboard where you can write whatever you want. Some people write jokes or riddles. Other people are like, hey, have you seen my gloves? Have you seen my headlamp? Anytime you want to quickly write out a message to the community, you use this whiteboard. And then further down a pod, basically this whole section, the second floor of this section of a pod is the galley, which is the kitchen / cafeteria. That is the way to exit the cafeteria, so I'm actually going to take you down this way. Remember what I said about how there only being 3 staircases inside the elevated station? This is the 3rd one, the one that is furthest away from Destination Alpha, or the main entrance to the station. You can see more of these red lockers with the fire equipment in here. And then through here is the A1 second floor berthing pod. I'm actually going to show you this, what it looks like, because this is where I live and sleep. So I'm going to have to be very, very quiet because these walls are very thin, and you just have to be conscientious of your neighbors. So here we go. It's helpful signs here to tell you which berthing rooms are where. And then down here, down this long hallway, is where I live. I'm at A1, second floor, room 22. All right. My room is a bit of a mess right now because I'm packing up to leave and I'm finally getting around to doing this filming tour. But yeah, they're very small. I think the whole room is about 8 feet by 10 feet. And yeah, it's sparse, but you got to make out of it what you can. When I first got here, I thought this room was tiny and I was like, how am I going to fit in here? Now it seems like plenty, but I just wish I brought more room decorations. And now, coming out of the birthing hallway, I'm just going to quickly duck in the men's bathroom while I know nobody's in here. And that's the other thing about living here, is that you get your own tiny little bedroom, but you have to use the shared bathroom. So 3 sinks, mirrors, a couple urinals in the guys, obviously, a couple stalls, and 1 shower. Some of the other bathrooms on station have 2 showers. It's just kind of variable, but yeah, shared everything. All right, coming out of the birthing pod in general, and then further down to the total opposite end of the station from where we started, and we come to another vestibule, and this one leads out to the vertical tower, which is the stairway to get down to the under ice areas like the logistics arch, the fuel arch, the vehicle maintenance facility, and I'm going to show you tours of those later, but for now let me just show you what the vertical tower is. Although nobody actually calls it the vertical tower, we all just call it the beer can. So right now, we have a bunch of trash laying out here that needs to be taken down. This is the trash kind of collection area. And then once it's full enough, which it definitely is right now, we cart it all into the elevator here and take it down to the logistics arch where we sort it. It gets compacted and then gets tracked out once the summer starts, which is just about to happen. All right, coming back in from the beer can, if you take a right, you'll go right into the main entrance of the galley. And we are almost there. And this is the galley. Out this window, if you look to your right, when you come in, you can see the Geographic South Pole way out there. It's probably too small to see with this field of view on this GoPro, but you get the idea. It's right out that window. Tons of seating. We have the galley set up for summer right now, which means there can probably be held like 100 people in here or something crazy like that at a time. Over winter, we had very few tables. We had probably enough to seat 20 or 30 at a time because there's only 39 on station. So right now it's actually very kind of cluttered in my mind, but it's necessary for the summer population. Coming further into the galley, we have our leftovers fridge where all the amazing chefs we have here load up this fridge for us to eat whenever, middle of the night or on Sundays when they're taking a break. You never go hungry here. People are pretty well fed. Here is the grill, the food line. Usually lots of baked goods right here as well. Coffee, tea, all the other beverages. These get switched out periodically. Right now we have Gatorade, orange juice, water, and our ice cream fridge. A lot of people get a kick out of the fact that we have an ice cream fridge here at the South Pole, and they're like, why don't you just store it outside? But the problem is outside is like negative 80 Fahrenheit a lot of the times, and if you've ever tried to scoop out negative 80 Fahrenheit ice cream, it's actually pretty hard. So this is really to keep ice cream a little bit warmer than outside, but not too warm so it doesn't melt. Over here we have the coffee bar, where we have a volunteer kind of cafe staff that run it every Sunday morning, early afternoon. It's really awesome. They make all kinds of coffee. People donate the beans, donate the grounds, so we're not always drinking the mass-produced coffee over there at the other coffee station. So pretty nice to have that. Also during winter, we kind of have a lounge in this area where it's all couches, coffee table. It's a comfortable space now. It's got to be taken up by tables so that there's more room for people here during the summer. Here's the community bulletin board. If you've got something that you want to actually stay up for a little bit as an announcement, don't write it on the whiteboard I showed you before. Put it up here and get people to know about it. As you come out of the galley, put your dirty dishes in here. During the winter, we all take turns doing dishes in the dish pit. And that's the Hobart right there that we use to wash all the dishes with. But during the summer, there's a dedicated steward crew that takes care of all the dishes and a lot of that housekeeping so that we don't actually take turns. I think it's probably good that we do that during the winter because it just builds kind of camaraderie, community. Everybody on station during winter takes turns doing the dishes, from the station manager to the chefs to the scientists, everybody. So I think it just kind of is a bonding experience to have that, even though it's kind of annoying sometimes, but I think overall it's a good thing.
Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for part 2 where I show you the rest of the station, including the beer can, the sauna, and many other places. After that, I've got tons of interviews coming out for you guys, and in case you've ever wanted to know what it's like walking outside at the South Pole, I've filmed the entire 20-minute walk in -80 degree Fahrenheit weather from the station to the South Pole telescope.